This is a post over 25 years in the making. I don't need advice. I'm here to put some wind in the sails of those that need it. To tell victims of infidelity that time heals and to stay strong. It's not about surviving the storm. It's about dancing in the rain. I, male, 43, met my eldest son's mother back on Leap Day 1996. Let's call her HBK, 41, lol. We were in different high schools. One day I called my homegirl loony girl up to see if she wanted to kick it and stuff. She had to get off the phone, but handed it to HBK to talk to me instead. HBK was a runaway that had just gotten out of juvie for GTA and CC fraud. She was 15, and I was 17. We talked on the phone for over 14 hours straight, and a few hours the next day. Day after that I went to loony girl's house to meet her. We partied and ended up hooking up that night a few times. After a few days, I snuck her into my room. She hid in there for a day or so before I introduced her and her situation to my mom. My mom was cool with it, but insisted we give HBK's dad a call after a week or so. We didn't. He came to pick her up and brought us a nice houseplant to thank us for keeping her safe. He then took her home without issue. Her mother was not in her life. Her dad liked that she wasn't running wild with me around and encouraged the relationship. He would bring her over after school, 20-minute drive, and pick her back up around 9 PM or so every day for the first year or so. In 1997 I graduated and bought a bucket to drive. So now I had to get her home at night. Her dad was tired of all the driving. I had a lot of friends and we all partied. One day my bucket wouldn't start, so I paid my homie, HD for half dead, to take her home every day for a week while my car was getting worked on. A few weeks I got into an argument with HD, and he blurted out, "That's why I fucked your bitch," over the phone and hung up. HBK denied this right away and locked herself in the bathroom threatening suicide. I stupidly believed her. I gathered up a few of my blood homies and we went looking for HD. He was homeless living in his car and hooked on meth. We got a call that he was in a secluded parking lot on a hill, surrounded by a canyon. We caught up to him and dragged him out of his car and jumped him. HBK and loony girl pulled his GF out of the car and beat her ass too. We sent his car down a cliff into the canyon. After that things were good. In 1998, I was kicked out of my mom's house and crashed with my cousin. HBK graduated and was 18 now, so she stopped going home every day and stayed with me Alet. Of course she got pregnant. I started to straighten up and work thinking of my child. When she was 6 months along, I made up with my mother and HBK, and I moved back in with her. At that point I discovered my sister, C's, 41, was dating one of my homies, SLB, M45. In 1999 we had our child, Kid M, 21. SLB and I started working together, and by 2000, SLB and our little family had gotten the nap together as roommates. In 2002 we got our own apt, and SLB got his own apt within the same complex with C's, and they got engaged. I started working a lot on call to provide for us. C's was working out at a casino. SLB and HBK were not working. You guessed it, they started having an affair. They were able to keep it a secret for a while due to us being a work a lot. We had no idea for a while. One day in 2004 one of HBK's homegirls, Jay, was crashing with us and asked me for a favor. She had gotten pregnant and the BD, Babidadi, ghosted her. She wanted to borrow money for an abortion. I agreed and lent Jay the money. HBK started drinking Alet and acting a fool, not taking great care of the kid, and our place was a sty. Caught her with narcotics once or twice, not letting me touch her, and sex was less and less. One day a bunch of our circle of friends went to a pub while I worked, and C's was also working. HBK got super drunk and fought Jay, ending their friendship. I came home to an empty house. Kid was at my mom's for the weekend. I called HBK and got incoherent screaming. She got home a few minutes later with her eyes swollen shut and her face unrecognizable. SLB had physically assaulted her behind the pub. I called the police and soon thereafter a drunk SLB showed up at my place to berate HBK in a drunken show. I squared up on him. 6'0", 205 pounds, has 6 feet 6 inches, 290 pounds, but the police were showing up so he fled out the back door. HBK stopped cooperating with any questions. I did not get any explanation why this happened at the time. Just drunken babble. C's believed whatever SLB told her and stayed with him. I moved Kid and myself into my mother's temporarily while still paying for the app to keep my son safe from the drama his mom, HBK, was putting us through at the time. We never broke up, just separated. I came by every day to check on her and talk. She seemed to straighten up and even got a job. After a few months we talked about me moving back in with certain conditions. She suddenly started acted funny and suspect. One day she insisted I not come by that day, so of course I came by. The next morning at 6 AM, I went through my bedroom window, it was always unlocked, to find HBK in my bed with some random guy. Let's call him Errol, 48. I jumped in the window and woke them up to allow WTF. Errol jumped out of bed nude and got in my face. HBK started laughing and yelled ha harmful, no you know. That broke me down from furious to inconsolable. She told Errol to get dressed and wait in the kitchen. We talked but it was mostly you shouldn't have moved out as she justified her actions. I left distraught hanging my head in shame after about a half hour. After a few days, I got a hold of Jay to ask her if she knew more than I did. Since they weren't friends anymore, she told me everything. Remember the abortion? That wasn't for her, that was for HBK due to her affair with SLB. They suckered me into paying for it. Jay apologized for her involvement. Remember the pub fight? That's because SLB was helping with a wet t-shirt contest, and HBK got jealous and smacked SLB several times. So SLB clobbered her. She told me they had been having an affair for over 2 years right under our noses. Jay and I started hanging out much to HBK's dismay. C's believed SLB's side of the story and stayed with him. I disowned her for that. HBK ended up staying with Errol. I casually hung out with Jay for a few months until I got my own place. HBK started asking for custody and CS as she was getting evicted from the app because I took my name off the lease and stopped paying. Errol didn't work, so they moved in with his mother at the trailer park. I told her she was in no position to have him, no jobs, trailer park, heavy drinking, so she physically assaulted me. The next morning I went and got a restraining order against HBK as a precursor to filing for custody of Kid. She freaked out and begged me not to take him from her. I told her to cooperate with me or I will get custody as I was holding all the cards. Dateline is filled with her actions, police reports of her negative contacts, pictures of her drunk or high, even a pic of her bathtub filled with ice and booze, etc. Without courts we came to an accord. She could have him every other weekend and every Wednesday night, provided I did all the driving. No child support. This was supposed to be a temporary agreement until she got back on her feet, but it became permanent as she never did until these last few years. Errol and I were cordial for a year until one day I found out from HBK he was on meth. This was while she was pregnant and asked for my help on what to do. I took my son away from his mom for 4 months until I was convinced he was clean again. HBK agreed. I have gotten along with Errol ever since, and he respects me as Kid's father and credits me for motivating him to get clean and try to be as good a father as I am. In 2005, they had their kid and I just stayed a single dad that didn't date anyone for over a year. When I did start dating, when Kid was with HBK, HBK started getting jealous and causing problems. In 2006 I met wife, 36, and at first it was casual. I had a babysitter suddenly move, and I asked wife to babysit while I was in class. So I was hooking up with the babysitter, and we eventually got serious, and she moved in. Kid loved her quickly, and we got serious. HBK kept throwing monkey wrenches at us. After a while I got Errol to check her. Over the years wife and I slowly developed an organic type of selfless love. We were and are totally in sync with each other. When we had our first child together in 2010, HBK lost her mind. Getting tired of her BS, wife and I invited her out to dinner to call her out on her issues and address them face to face. She folded and slowly started accepting that I had moved on and she needs to as well. Wife and I got married in 2011. HBK wanted to come to the ceremony, but we declined as we were afraid she would make a scene. This embarrassed her, but motivated her to start acting like an adult. We haven't had many issues since, and we co-parented well from then on until kid was no longer a kid. My marriage to wife is strong, and I credit some of our happiness to knowing what not to do and what we didn't want from a partner. We get stronger every day. When kid graduated HS himself in 2017, HBK really wants to be involved in the grad party we were throwing. So wife and HBK went to the Pinnacle District together and planned the whole thing together. That day HBK apologized and explained herself and her actions to wife. Everything has been great ever since. I personally haven't argued with HBK in over 10 years and we sometimes talk about our kids' issues. We have progressed to the point where HBK can send her other children to stay within for a few days or even a week to visit kid as they now live out of state. Her whole family minus Errol stayed with us last Christmas for 2 days, and it made kid, who never stopped living with me, very happy that we can get along like the grown-ups we are now. Wife and I now have 4 children together and a beautiful home. We can easily dance in the rain and enjoy and appreciate sunny days because we weathered all those storms years ago. Now that the story is over, let's see what people in the comments had to say. That's what's up. Nothing like peace and harmony when you getting older. You did the right thing for yourself and kids. Great outcome here. We appreciate life so much more after surviving adversity. Well, that's it for the story. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.